later today, but once we got involved in it and got the momentum going, the negativity seeped away. So what did I do? I just had to make an adjustment. To fit my creativity in, I just woke up a little earlier to make it happen. And once you get the momentum going on things, then you start to get the confidence. And once you get confidence, you start getting more competent. You start to learn more about how to do it. And once you learn about how to do it, you get more motivated to do it. Yes. The lack of opportunity? Like what life opportunity are you referring to? Correct. So the question is, how does a lack of opportunity fit into this idea of creativity? Maybe you have an idea, hey, I want to go to school, but I don't have the funds. Hey, maybe I want to do this, I don't have the funds. I'm glad you asked that, because now, instead of allowing the roadblock to set you up and you keep hitting the roadblock, now you become resourceful. You develop this resourcefulness. And what does that mean? That means I start to seek out the resources. See, here's what I want you to understand. Follow me. This is what I call the ant philosophy. An ant is walking straight. I put my finger in front of the ant. What will the ant do? Go around it or throw it to me. Go around it. Go over it. Stop in front of it. Turn back around. They don't stop moving till they get to the destination. They don't stop moving. I've never seen ants like this. What I'm gonna do now? They're always moving. So the question is, if I don't have the first resource, where do I get the second resource? Or the third resource? Or the fourth resource? But I don't stop moving till I reach what I'm trying to reach. Does that make sense? 100%. Don't stop moving. That's all I want you to do. Just keep going. Ask the next best question. So if I'm looking for, let's say, financial aid for college, hypothetically, the next best question is, can I get a scholarship? Yes, great question. Where do I get it? Go to this resource. See, here's what I want you to understand, MU. All the money that we pay to our institutions, the system of Manchester University is designed for you to succeed. Does that make sense? The system is designed for you. So if you want career help, go to career services. It's right there. You need something to eat, go to dining. You need help about math, you got a tutor. It's all designed for you to succeed. Does that make sense? So for your questions to be answered, it's easy. Just find the next best person that can help you. Okay? Great question. Let's move to our last food for thought. There is no innovation and creativity without failure, period. That's from Brené Brown. There's no innovation and creativity without failure. Now, isn't that weird? Remember, what did I say before? Negativity is the enemy of creativity. This slide says you need the failure to bring out the creativity. It's like it's almost going against each other, right? Thoughts? Yes? Yes. Yes. The comment was, what great person has ever succeeded on the first try? I don't know one. Yes.
Past the negativity.
You have to push past the negativity. If you want to be successful, understand this. And this hangs up a lot of college students, as I'm a professor at the University of St. Francis. And I tell my students all the time, as I'm relating to you, if you want to be successful, be okay with the failure. It's embedded in success. It's embedded in success. Yes, failure is not really failure, it's just a new way of learning. I like to consider failure as feedback.
Shayla shares, if we never failed, we would always be content with our life and skills, even if we could do better.
100%. If we don't fail, then we'll just keep doing the same thing. Now, let me give you a couple things. 3 reasons why failure is important. 3, take it, leave it, but it's important. Number 1, when you fail at anything, it causes you to reflect. Isn't that true? You do something not to your best standard, you're like, man, I probably should do that different. but you're going to reflect on it. If you get an A on the test, you don't reflect. You say, my gosh, I am so smart. You got to stop me. I'm too good. I'm too good. I'm too good. I need to teach the teacher. Number 2, failure can help you change. When you succeed at something, you don't have an urge to change. Why? Because you're succeeding. So if it works, keep doing it. Does that make sense? Number 3, if you fail and you really want it, then it induces a drive that's undeniable. It helps propel you. Believe it or not, failure is your friend. Matter of fact, you have to define what failure is to you. To me, not trying is failure. That's my failure. I'd rather try and not meet my expectations than not try, knowing that I really wanted to. Does that make sense? Me not trying, that's the loss. Me trying and not succeeding, that's the win. Because I'm going to just try again. And I'm going to try again. And I'm going to just try again. I don't mind trying. I don't mind adjusting. I don't mind getting bad grades. I've had bad grades before. I just start back over and I just do something a little different, okay? So if you want to be creative, as we're going to talk about today, if you want to be innovative at anything, I want you to understand that the first try may not be the best try, but at least you tried. See, a great philosopher said, the step of 1,000 miles begins with just one step. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. But if you never take one step, you'll never take two. You'll never take two. Yes. That's a great question. How do you grow out of the mindset, or how do you gain the mindset to keep going when you fail more than once? Well, how many of you fail more than once? All of us have it something. How many of you kept going? All of us have it something. So to answer your question, why would you keep going? Some of you got creative. Why would you keep going if you failed once, twice, 3? What made you keep going? Now, let me just say this. The reason why I keep asking you all these questions is because of a great quote. I'm full of quotes. If you ask Mara, I have them all day. But a quote that I live by is, an unchallenged brain should never be trusted. An unchallenged brain should never be trusted. Just because I think something doesn't mean it's true. So if I say, yeah, you can't really do that, the next question I have for myself, well, is that true? Is that true? So my question to you today is, why would you keep going if you have failed more than once? What made you keep going? Say it again. Passion. Okay? Remember I said earlier, it depends on how bad you want that thing that you want. Passion. It's a great one. What else? There's no right answer to this. It was the reason why you kept going. Why'd you keep going? How'd you push past your maybe a small failure or a failure in your life? Yes.
Amira shares, the fact that I knew that I had the power to do it if I just kept trying.
Knew that you had one, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry.
It was a little muffled.
Knew the power to do it.
Knew that you had the power to do it, 100%. So my point is, how do you move past it? You got to have a reason that will make you want to wake up in the morning to move past it. You got to have a reason that will pull you up. It's what I call the push-pull theory. See, as a professor, as a faculty member, whatever, as a speaker, you can call me and I can push you along the way. But guess what happens if you push someone every day? What happens to the pusher? They could fall if they keep pushing, but I think someone said they get tired. You can't keep pushing all day long. So now, if I'm not pushing you, what pulls you out of bed every day to make it happen? Does that make sense? Someone can push you and you can receive it, but at some point you have to pull yourself up. even when you don't want to get up. And you may have to use a little creativity to do that. Okay? So, creativity, what does it mean? It's the ability to transcend traditional ideas, rules, patterns. This could be in our own personal life and relationships to create meaningful new ideas. That's what we're talking about. What does transcend mean? We're talking about how do we exceed traditional ideas? How do we move past what we think we can't do? So again, leadership is ownership. So that's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about how do we use creativity in our own life, especially now as students. You know, when I was in college my freshman year, I got a 3.4 my freshman year. I went to a community college. And I got to admit, I was sad. I was like, man, I'm going to a community college. I can't even get into a place like MU, right? Like, oh, man, this is tough. And they call Merrimack Community College, where I attended, they called it MIT. It was like, Mama, I tried to go, but I didn't graduate. That's what they called it. It was sad. So I sat on the floor and I cried. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, man, this is where I'm ending up. No one gets out of here. So I get this 3.4 and I'm feeling good about life. I mean, like, I'm like, man, I got this college thing figured out. 3.4, not easy classes, not super hard, but I was proud of myself because in high school I was a 2.4 at best. And then my freshman second semester, I ended up getting a 1.7. Yeah, I was very creative of how I got that 1.7. I transcended new ideas because the new idea that I came up with, if you don't go to class, you still get good grades. Isn't that crazy? I don't know why I thought that was a good idea. How many of you tried that idea? No? Okay. All right. I know some of you have. I thought that was the new idea. Like, if you don't go and you just enroll, they give you credit. It didn't work that way. So I ended up getting this 1.7. I'm going to go back to some of you asked, how do you move past it? Now, my parents, for me, they are instrumental in my life. How many of you, your parents are like, my gosh, they are my biggest cheerleaders. I love my parents. Part of why I'm at this institution or in college anyway is to do this for them. They've sacrificed so much for me to be here. So I do it for them. No different than you. My parents sacrificed. I'm talking about long hours at a factory. My dad was a baker. I'm talking working 2 jobs. My mother worked 10, 12 hours in a factory, hot. So I get this 1.7. I never forget. Now, my parents have never been to college. I'm a first-generation college student. They have no clue. In my mind, my dad has no clue. So when they see my report card, they're going to say, here's your mail. They're not going to look at it. And I don't know why my dad opened my end-semester grades. He's never done it in elementary school. He's never done this in high school. Why this one? I have no idea. But I never forget, I get home. And normally when I get home, he says, take the trash out, right? And that's where I was going. I'm beating him to the punch. I'm being proactive. So I'm walking, I get in, I'm walking, the light's off. And he says, wait a minute, come here. I'm like, what? I'm about to take the trash out. He said, hold on. He says, turn the light on. I'm like, what? Because he never asked me to turn the light on, right? 2, he's already got off of work. So I know he's tired. He turns the light on. He has the report card in his hand as if he was waiting on me. He says, what's this? I said, what's what? These grades. What is this? Now, this is a shock to me because, I don't know. I didn't know he would even look at it enough to even figure it out. He's never been to college. He says, you're throwing it all away. You're messing it all up. I worked too hard for you to give this up. And at that exact moment, the tears will start coming down my face. Because for this person to sacrifice almost everything to give myself, my identical twin brother, and my sister just the opportunity to play sport. He never asked me to work a job, paid my car insurance, helped me with my cell phone bill, and I got a 1.7. My ideas had to change. I had to change. Because at that point, I didn't have anything to go on. But knowing that me completing my college degree meant something to him, it meant more to me. You following me? Transcend these ideas. That's creativity. It is never being stuck in one position, but constantly moving to get to a better, a more stable position, a more inspiring position that will help you keep going and going and going. And guess what? When you get to that point, the people in your environment will look to you for inspiration so they can get to that point. That's the power of leadership. That's the power of when you get it, when you're able to be better, guess what? Everyone around you is a little bit better. Okay? Okay, so here we go. I'm gonna stop talking for a moment. And what I would like for you to discuss, I'm gonna give you like 2 minutes. What are some of the traits of creative people? What are some of the traits of creative people? Discuss with the person sitting next to you. Socially distance, please. But discuss that and we'll come right back, okay? Go. What are some of the traits of creative people? Come on back real quick. Thank you. Thank you for chatting. Again, I told you sharing is caring. What are some traits of creative people? What do you think? Just throw them out there, whatever you discussed. Love to know. Yes. Strong-minded. Okay, good. Strong-minded. Yes. Yes. So let me use those two. I got you 1 second. But being strong-minded and being adaptable / flexible is absolutely critical. You can be strong-minded, but you got to be able to convey some of those ideas and that belief to other people. Does that make sense? People got to support your idea. Okay? Yes. Open to critique. Feedback. That's very important. What else? Yes.
We said someone who's asked great questions like why and how.
Okay. Asking good questions. Yes.
Somebody who always come with the plan.
Come with the plan. Or be willing to formulate a plan. Okay. Who else? Yes, I see you.
Understand that no.
No is just a word. And I'm glad you brought that up because sometimes we don't like being told no. And sometimes we never say no. I'm gonna tell you one thing about creative people. If you want to be strong-minded to make sure that you produce what you want to produce and this vision that's in your head, you want to make sure that it comes to fruition. Your favorite word is going to be no. Hey, you want to go out? No. Hey, do you want to cheat? No. No. Because every time you say yes to this, you say no to that. If you say, yes, I'm not going to do my homework, then you say, yes, that I'm going to fail. Does that make sense? Every time you say yes to something, you say no to something. And every time you say no to something, you say yes to something. The key thing, young leaders, is when do I say no and when do I say yes? And who do I say it to? And at what moment? That's the key. You can't always say no, but you surely can always say yes. And how do I gauge it? If something pulls me away from the goal, I have to say no. That's my measure. If it sets me behind the 8 ball, I have to say no.
I'd say they're futuristic and how they're like, if they're in a race, they're looking at the finish line.
Yes, that's a great point. The person is always, the people that are creative. Again, I'm not talking about just producing products. I'm talking about also producing ideas, trying to get things accomplished. They are always looking forward. You can look, you have 3 places you can look in life. Number 1, you can look at the past. Number 2, you can look at the present. Or number 3, you can look at the future. Each one of those time frames in life is a gift and a curse. You can look at the past and be disappointed. You can look in the present and be disappointed. You can look in the future and be terrified. Is that right? Or you can look in the past and be motivated. You can look at the present and be inspired. You can look at the future and be excited. Either one. The creative people look at all time frames, but don't put a lot of stock into any of them. We can't change the past. All we can do is be present for the present And the future hasn't even come yet. So I'm not even going to consider that so much, but just keep in mind this, every time I take a step, I'm moving one step closer to my future. And this is what I want to help you understand, my young leaders, is this, because I'm running out of time here. As you take one step toward graduation, as you take one more step, every single class period, you're taking one more step to graduation, one more step to graduation, one more step to graduation. You're building a track record for yourself so you can trust yourself, so you can be the person you want to be. That's the personal leadership that each one of us, that we all possess. But if you never take a step, like I said before, it's going to be harder to get there. It's going to take you longer. Your hands raised. Yes. Yeah. Okay. So the question is, let me make sure I'm right. How do I move forward with the goal when I have an enormous amount of distractions? Oh, how do I prioritize? Okay, real quick, here's just how I prioritize. But again, this is how I use creativity. Number one, I need to know what's the distractions. So for me, part of my distraction has been time. How many of you have a time distraction? I mean, like, I don't have enough time. So what I have to do is I have to work around my distraction. It's not enough to complain about something if you're not willing to do anything about it. So personally, I just set my alarm earlier and I just get to bed earlier, but I just wake up a lot earlier. I have to, because the time issue won't change for me between family, between teaching, between speaking, and being there for my family, it won't change. So I just have to change how I approach the distraction. Does that make sense? That's resourcefulness. It's resourcefulness. Okay. So I think I'm at time, but one thing I just want to just keep this in mind. This is a question I want you just to consider. Why do people hide their creativity? Why do they hide it? You don't have to answer. I just want you to consider that. Why do they hide it? And the last question I want you to observe is this as I depart, and I'll be back up here later today, is this. When I come back up here today, I want you to write down maybe one or two things that you pulled away from the entire event that you can actually implement on Monday. Just pull away one or two ideas. Listen to all of us. I'm just a perspective. We have a great speaker coming up next. She's going to offer you another perspective. Then we have two great speakers coming up next. They're going to offer you a different perspective. Like, you're going to get all this perspective. I just need you to pull one idea. One idea will change your life. You don't need 10. You need one that you're willing to get behind. Does that make sense? Just one. Not 10. Have one. Good people, thank you so much. I will see you later today. Thank you.
Okay, for our next session, we have a 99 Manchester College grad who is also a member of our board of trustees, Miss Madeline Metzger. Woo!
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay? So Ron was amazing, right? Like, I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to follow him. Okay, so hopefully I can live up to the bar that he's raised. So I'm here to talk to you today about your story and your purpose. Now, some people might call that your personal brand. Can anyone tell me what a brand is? Just shout it out. Yes. Yes, a unique identification. That's a good answer. Any other ideas? Something that defines you. Really good. Anyone else? So those are spot on. And I will add, a brand is the promise that you make to deliver to other people. And that is true whether it's your personal brand or it's your organization's brand. It's the promise that you make. So it's not a tagline. It's not a logo. It's not even the product packaging or even your packaging. It's the promise you make to others. And if you don't deliver on that promise, guess what? You're not seen as authentic, and you lose trust, and you lose that rapport and that loyalty that you've worked so hard to build. So in order to know what our promise is that we are delivering to the world, I personally think it's important to start with our stories. So everyone has their own unique story. Even if you have an identical twin and you grew up in the same house with the same parents, you still have a unique story to you. Even if you grew up with your roommate from kindergarten all the way up here to Manchester University, you still have your own unique story. You might have shared experiences, you might have shared values, you might have similar perspectives on things like religion and politics, but your story is unique to you. So our stories are also multidimensional. We're not just existing on one plane, right? There's a lot of different things that feed into our stories. And at the core of our story is our personality. And these are individual differences in characteristics and patterns of thinking and feeling and behaving. Then on the next layer, we have our internal dimensions. So think of these as like your age, your race or your ethnicity, your gender identity, sexual orientation, your physical abilities. And then the next level is external dimensions. Think of these as geographic locations, where you've lived, where you currently live, where you may have lived in the past. Your personal habits, your hobbies and activities, your religion, your educational background, your work experience, the clubs and organizations that you're a part of, even your appearance. These are external factors. And then the last layer is your era, the world events, the politics, the historical moments, the cultural moments that have defined how you view the world. They've influenced how you view the world. So let me give you an example. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about my story. So my personality. I'm told that I'm relational, that I like to make connections with people. I like to learn about who you are and what your story is and what your background is. I like to have that connection. And even though I consider myself an extroverted introvert, I still like to have that one-on-one. I might need to then, retreat to my house or to my safe people to rejuvenate, but I like to get to know who you are deeper than surface level. I'm also curious. I'm the type of person that is continuing to learn. Whether it's formal learning or informal learning, I like to explore new things. If something looks interesting to me, I'm like, I want to try that. I'm not the type of person to have like a 10-year, 20-year, 30-year life plan. I'm more like, oh, that looks cool. Tell me more about that. Let me explore this. Let me try this. Gets to the risk taking that Ron was talking about. I'm helpful. At least that's what I'm told. I'm empathetic. I want to help people work through what they're facing, if at all possible. I'm generous and compassionate. I've been told that I'm a servant leader, that I'm in whatever I'm doing because I want to make a difference, whether that's a difference interpersonally, one-on-one, or a difference globally. And I think I'm hardworking. I come from hardworking stock, Midwestern stock. I'm diligent. I take pride in doing good work that provides value to people in both my personal and my professional life. And sometimes I probably take on more than I should, admittedly. It's hard for me to say no sometimes. So that's my first layer, my personality layer. My internal layer then I was born in Bloomington, Indiana, but I grew up in central Illinois, just outside of the Springfield area. But North Manchester has always kind of been a second home to me because this is where my dad's from. He actually grew up on a farm just a couple miles north of town. I spent a lot of time here in North Manchester, obviously, because my grandparents were here and other relatives. I consider myself a cisgendered female. I am also Amerasian. So what that means is my father is American, happens to be white American, and my mother is Vietnamese. They met when my dad went into Brethren Volunteer Service and decided to work in Vietnam, helping farmers build irrigation systems. And my mom was a teacher in the same town where he was working. So I consider myself a person of color, even though I know that I present as a person of the dominant culture. I am also the daughter then of an immigrant. And I don't know if any of you have similar experiences, but children of immigrants in this society tend to have a very different worldview of how things work in what we would consider social norms. I am the oldest child of two. My parents have two daughters. I'm the oldest. My sister is 2.5 years younger than me. And I am the oldest grandchild. So my grandparents, who lived here in North Manchester until they passed away, had 5 grandchildren. I'm the oldest. My cousins and my sister remind me all the time about how bossy I was. And I thought I was just trying to be helpful. So my external dimensions. I started school in a multicultural setting. From kindergarten to 3rd grade, I went to public school in Springfield, Illinois. And the majority of my friends were people of color, students of color. In fact, my first memory of feeling like I was different was at a birthday party. One of my friends from kindergarten through 3rd grade had a birthday party, invited me. She wanted to play with Barbies. So she pulled out her giant collection of Barbies. I was very envious of this collection of Barbies. And she walked over to me and said, "Madeline, I'm gonna let you play with the white Barbie because you're white." And that's when I realized everyone else at the party was Black. That is my first memory of realizing I was different. And then in 3rd grade, my parents moved just south of Springfield to a smaller town called Chatham. And that was a predominantly middle to upper class white community. So I went from being in a very multicultural setting to a very dominant culture setting. English is my primary language, but it was not necessarily my first. I'm told, I don't remember, but I'm told that my first words were in Vietnamese. And I'm also told, again, don't remember, that as soon as I started preschool, I refused to speak anything but English. And things are a little bit different now, but back then, a lot of immigrant parents wanted their kids to assimilate. So it didn't bother my mom that I refused to speak anything but English. She still spoke to me in Vietnamese, so I can still understand a lot of it. I just don't speak it back to her. We have this like back and forth where half of her sentences are in both English and Vietnamese, and I just respond to her in English. I am married. I actually met my husband here at Manchester. He graduated in the class of 2000. He is originally from Fort Wayne, but that's his story, not mine. We have no kids, but we do have 2 extremely spoiled cats named Rigel and Mika, and I can show you pictures later. They're so cute. I currently live and work in the Goshen, Indiana area, which is about an hour and a half north of here, hour 15 about. My educational background, you know that I graduated here with my bachelor's in interpersonal and organizational communications. I minored in music while I was here. And I also have my MBA from Bluffton University over in Ohio. I'm a musician, as I just mentioned. My I guess you would say my focus of my music minor was flute performance, but I also sang in the choir. So I played in the orchestra, sang in the choir while I was here. My hobbies, oh, I should also say, before I got here to Manchester, I was like the epitome of band geek. I was even the drum major. That's how geeky I was, but I'm proud of it. I own it. My hobbies and interests include traveling. I love to travel. I travel a lot for work. That's not quite as fun because, you know, I have to go someplace and sit in a room for a meeting, but it's still, like, I still enjoy visiting different places and love traveling for personal reasons too. I like to read. I run and ride bike, although that doesn't mean I'm good at either of them, but I do them on a regular basis. I love laughing. I love spending time with my friends. I'm a member of the Church of the Brethren, have been since the day I was born. I'm a writer, a communicator, and a marketer, and I've worked primarily in the nonprofit sector. So after I left here, graduated from here, I worked for an international nonprofit humanitarian aid organization called Church World Service. And now I work for Everence Financial, which is technically a nonprofit, but we have some entities that are for profit. And at Everence, I'm actually part of the senior leadership team, which is the executive level team. And I serve as vice president of marketing for a team of about 18 people. And we handle all of the marketing across all of our offices in the country. And we have about 22 or more offices across the country. I'm also a teacher. I have given in the past private flute lessons. And right now I am also teaching a strategic marketing management course for Eastern Mennonite University. And I consider myself a peacemaker. I'm a trained conflict mediator, and I have a passion, a natural passion for social justice and anti-racism advocacy work, and have been asked a number of times to also give speeches and presentations on topics related to anti-oppression. So those are some of my external factors. My era, I'm on the younger end of the Gen X generation. Gen X was defined by historical events like the Challenger explosion. I think that happened when I was in the 3rd grade. We Are the World, which was a major mega superstar music production that benefited, they were raising money for famine relief in Africa. The Berlin Wall fell during my generation. We saw it happen live on TV. The AIDS epidemic was highly controversial when I was growing up. Protests in the street, lots of discrimination, lots of very polarizing opinions, and fear of who would get AIDS, how you could catch it, and a lot of misinformation going around about that. I grew up in the era of the rise of the PC. So if you look at this teeny photo down at the bottom, that was the computer that was in my elementary school library. I mean, not that specific one. This is a stock photo. I'm just going to be real. But it looks exactly like the computer that was in the library at my elementary school. We had to use these giant floppy disks, not even the little ones, but these giant floppy disks. Gen X, we were known as the latchkey kids. So a lot of us had parents both parents working outside of the home, and would have to come home literally, to an empty house, hence the latchkey with the house key to walk in. It also was related to a rise in divorce rates among parents of my generation. And fashion, let's see, flannel, lots and lots of flannel. Flannel was really big. I don't know if you've heard of Kurt Cobain, but that was when my generation was when he became very popular, the rise of alternative rock music, and also when he died, and flannel was a big thing for the alternative rock music scene. Let's see, leggings, but leggings with lace on the ankles, that was another big thing. Scrunchies, everyone had a scrunchie around their wrist at least, if not also in their hair. So that's my era. That's when I grew up. Those are the things that shaped my worldview. So that's a bit about my dimensions. And now I want to know more about yours. So I'm going to give you a couple minutes, and I want you, and I apologize for the overlap in the text here. I'm not sure how that happened, but I want you to take a moment and write down like maybe 5 to 10 of your dimensions. And then I want you to talk within your small groups for a bit about where those things fall in this wheel, this dimension wheel. And then I want to come back, and I hope some of you would be willing to share some of your story with a larger group. So, yes, question. That's a really good question. A lot of people will kind of fall back on their generation, which depending on which researchers you talk to, sometimes the dates will vary. But I think most of you in this room would be part of Generation Z, or I've also heard it called the iGen generation. So that's how a lot of people define their era. Some people don't like to have labels put on them though, and so they'll just think about what the major events that maybe help shape their worldview. Oh, no, yeah, the era from when you were born to the end of your life. Yes, that's how you would define your era. But of course, you don't know what's going to happen in the future. So what's happened, basically think of it as the things that have been influential to how you interpret the world based on your experiences. Social media, I would define as the previous era, which would be the millennials, but it's a big part of your era as well. Social media did not really become big on the scene until after I had graduated from college, actually. So my generation is known as kind of the early adopters of things like technology and social media because they've become so prominent, and my generation has like learned it really quickly, but we weren't born in an era where that was the norm, whereas you all were. Does that help? Thanks. Okay, why don't we take a couple of minutes just to help have you work some on your stories and dimensions. The reason why I am asking for us to examine our stories is because knowing and embracing our stories is crucial for us as people to live with authenticity. And sharing our stories then helps define community for us as well. And communities can be very multifaceted. You have your Manchester community, you have your family community, you have the community that you grew up in, your church or your faith community. And our stories also help us become more self-aware as individuals. And self-awareness is actually considered one of the most, if not the most, important capabilities for leaders. As Ron talked about, people don't lead just because you have a title or just because someone has bestowed some sort of authority onto you. People follow because they feel like you're someone worth following. And so by being more self-aware and recognizing our strengths, our weaknesses, our hidden biases, we also show others that we are authentic and that they can trust us to be walking alongside them with integrity. So again, leaders are people that others follow by choice. And when you are a true leader, you inspire others to want to work for shared aspirations, and you're influencing people to enthusiastically work toward goals identified as being for the common good. So in other words, by understanding your story and living your story authentically, you are showing other people what your brand is, what your brand promise is. And they can tell whether or not you're being true to that brand promise. So in order to be an effective leader, we need to then discover our purpose and mission in life. And our stories can help us discover that purpose, because your personal mission or purpose has to be one of deep meaning. And it has to be something that you feel strongly and believe strongly in. And it's something that you know is right for you. Your purpose is a statement of fact. It's what you were created and called to be and do, which means that our purpose emerges out of our beliefs, our faith, our core values, and our principles. C.S. Lewis once said, "We are what we believe." So our challenge is in raising our own awareness to a level that then enables that discovering and discerning and articulating our purpose and mission in life. So your small group leaders have a handout for you about, it's like a tool to help you discover what your purpose is and create a purpose statement. Now, developing your purpose statement may feel simple at first, but it's not necessarily simple and easy. What you draft may not be your final version. It may be something that you need to set aside and reflect on for a while, and then go back and refine it. And maybe as you continue to live into your lives, to live into your calling, things might change and you might need to revisit it. I think your core values, though, will remain the same. What's important, though, is that you use this process to reflect and discover and discern what you're called to do in this life that you've been given. So, let's see, what time is it? I'm running a little bit short on time. So I'm just going to walk through part of the process with you, and then I hope that you will take time this weekend to work through it and at least start to develop your first draft of your purpose statement. So you'll see in the worksheet that there are about 11 or 12 steps, I think. I can't quite remember. The first 5 are kind of the fun yet analytical approach to it, which is first, there's a long list of words that describe various core values. And you go through that and you circle the 10 that resonate most with you, that you feel describe who you are. And if there's a word that you think really describes who you are and what your core values are that's not on the list, just add it. Add it and circle it. Then next, assign the numbers 1 through 10 randomly to the ones that you've circled. And then using the numbers that you've assigned to the values, there's another exercise then in step 3 that helps you compare each of them to each other. And it looks kind of confusing at first, but I promise it'll make sense. So basically the numbers that you've assigned, so it will say, okay, compare the number 1 to number 2. Which one feels most strongly like you and your core values? And you circle whichever one. And then the next one, compare 1 and number 3, 1 and number 4, and so on and so on and so on. And then you count those up, count the ones that you've circled, and add all those numbers. It should equal 45, I think. If it doesn't, then either you circled too many or you did math wrong, which is, I mean, I'm not good at math. It's easy for me to do math wrong. And then you reorder your values based on the priority that was given to them in that count. And then the following steps help you then reflect on what those values are saying about you and to you, and walk you through to the point where you then are drafting your purpose statement. So I'll just let you know I've done this. I did this a few years ago. And by the time I got to step 9, I determined that my top 5 core values are compassion, relationships, spirituality, responsibility, and authenticity. And then out of that, I developed my purpose statement, which is step 11 on that worksheet. And I determined that my purpose is that I was created and called to live a life of compassion and authenticity, to learn from opportunities and mistakes and extend grace in order to promote wellness within myself and those around me. I can take that purpose statement and apply it to pretty much everything that I encounter in life, both personally and professionally. So I found this exercise to be really, really powerful and really meaningful. And I really do hope that you'll take some time to walk through it. And I hope that you walk away with the same sense of feeling. And I know that it will help you. I just know it'll help you better determine what you are called to be and do in this life and what kind of positive impact you can make, either one-on-one or globally or locally or regionally or whatever you end up feeling called to do, because you will know when it feels right, because you will know your purpose, and therefore you will know what your brand promises to the world. It's been a privilege and an honor to talk to you today. Thank you for having me, and I will be around for a few more minutes if you have any questions. Thanks, everyone.
And thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Thank you. Your next presentation comes from a few familiar faces from campus. We have Miss Megan Pollinay and Kenny Doss. Woo!
Hello, good morning. It's still morning. Good morning, everybody. And thank you guys so much for hanging in there. So I am part of the leadership committee that created this event for you guys today. And it was very intentional in the way that we ordered these presentations. So Ron did an amazing job at kind of setting the tone of to what you're going to learn today. He spoke about the importance of creativity and leadership. And then we had Madeline, who spoke about finding your purpose and the importance of how you brand yourself. And so Kenny and I are going to be the last presentation today. And it's hopefully going to show you, now that you have your purpose, how do you move forward into creating your vision? And vision is so, so important, because vision is what's going to set the tone as what Ron spoke about, taking that first step, that second step, that 1,000th step into what you want your life to look like. And so hopefully you're going to get a little bit about actualizing that vision. And you go to some of these conferences and you find that a lot of the times people use stories, because stories are relatable. I am the Director of Student Diversity and Inclusion here at Manchester. Kenny is the Student Diversity and Inclusion Coordinator. He graduated in 2019. I just graduated with my PhD in 2020. So our life experience is kind of similar to yours right now. And so we use our stories, hopefully to show you that, yes, it is possible. What we've achieved or what our dreams are possible. It is attainable, and so can you attain whatever dream, whatever vision, what your purpose is. So bear with us. We're going to show you a little bit about who we are and how we actualized our dreams. Hopefully, you would be able to do the same and be able to walk in your purpose and fulfill your vision. I'm not really great with technology, bear with me. Aha. Okay, take a look at this slide. Look at this adorable, cute little girl here from Trinidad and Tobago. Look at that purse. Look at that style at the age of 4. Okay, what was going to be her vision? What was her purpose? I like to say, what you see is what you get. And that is why vision is so important, because if you don't have a purpose, a vision, something to work towards, then you're walking around aimlessly. When you look at people, let's take the negative, alcoholics. They're thinking about when is the next drink? When can I get this next fix? That's their vision. And so what happens? They fulfill that. That's what they work towards. Let's look at the positive. If you're thinking about what's the next step, where can I go? You're going to work towards that. Vision is so important. So like I said, I'm from Trinidad and Tobago in the Caribbean. And in the Caribbean, I'm going to be honest with you, your job options are you're either going to be a lawyer, a doctor, an engineer, or a wife. That's just kind of what you're going to do in a third world country, right? But I had a dream. I had a vision for myself. I had something that I believe you all want for yourself. You want more. You know, you want to be able to look at your life and say, I left this earth doing something that I loved. And so for me, I wanted to be a criminologist, right? I said, okay, I want to fight crime. That's what I'm going to do. So what did I do? I got into university and I chose sociology and criminal justice. And I thought I was on my way to being a criminologist. But there was also something in my story that I never really focused on. It was sort of a dream, but not something that I could say aloud, like, hi, I'm from the Caribbean and I want to be an opera singer. It just didn't really go hand in hand. However, I was in all of these competitions. I participated in all of these things back at home. I was even a championship winner. And so, again, nope. It's not it. Lord. I'm pressing every single button. Aha. Yes, wait. Guys. All right, so I'm just gonna leave it on this slide because I don't know. I have this passion, right? I could sing and I can do all of these different things. And so I felt like, all right, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go and audition for choir in my school. I'm gonna see about what I can do. And so I went and I sang for some professors and they were like, whoa, you don't have a choir voice, my dear. You need to be a music major. So I go back to the drawing board. I say, okay, I wanted to be a criminologist, but here are all these people talking to me, telling me that I could possibly sing. So what did I do? Revamp, revisit, refocus. I decided to be a double major in music and sociology and criminology. And so what ended up happening was I graduated with my degree, thankfully, and I had all these other people talking about, you need to pursue this further. So what I want you to take away from this first segment of my life is you have your vision, but there are also a lot of people around you looking at you. And they might be the people that will invest in you, and sometimes when you don't even see that vision for yourself. So I had these professors, you need to do your master's, you need to do this, you need to join these competitions. Who are the people in your life today that you could think of? Just think about them, that are your champions. It could be a professor, it could be your parents, it could be friends. But think about those people because they were so important to my life. So I ended up going to audition for some schools, and I luckily was able to get acceptance into Bowling Green State University with their presidential scholarship for music. That is huge, coming from somebody who didn't even know that music was eventually going to be their goal or their vision. So I went to school and I was lucky to be able to graduate with my master's degree. And funny enough, I felt more in love with this dream of mine, this vision of mine. I saw myself reaching out to professors. I wanted to study lights. Who did I reach out to? The director. I said, hey, I want to know how these lights work. I want to know how does production happen. And sure enough, my final year in my master's, they actually made me the assistant director for our musical, for our opera. That was huge. That never happened to me before. Second thing I want you to look at, when you reach out to those people, when you're proactive in those ways, there's so many things that open up for you. Like Ron said, half the time, it just takes that courage, that creativity, that bravery to step out and really take advantage of things that are around you that you might not really recognize. All right. Next slide, the importance of networking. So here I am, I graduated. I moved to New York City and I become a surgical coordinator because I really didn't know what I wanted to do after I have a degree in singing. Like, what do you really do? So I worked, I had some side gigs, and funny enough, I went to this Christmas party singing in New York City, you could imagine. And the vice president at Ball State University pulls me out and talks to me. She asks me what I'm doing, what are my career choices, what are my interests, all of these things. And I share with her that, you know, I really love to sing. I think it's an avenue to success. I think it has opened a lot of doors for me. And I didn't know, but in that moment I was having a kind of rough interview, right? So what I want you guys to take away from this is you never know who is in the room. I was just at a gig, but yet my next opportunity was waiting right there for me. So what did I do? I researched the school. I did some more in my vision. What next? What now? That very year, that next year, 2015, I entered Ball State as a doctoral student, moving further along into this vision of this opera singer that I had created way back when I was a child. So again, takeaway, you never know who's going to be in the room when you present, when you perform, when you are going to the grocery store. So you always want to be ready. And that's so important for you to have that purpose, that vision of yourself, because you could be talking to your next boss. You could be talking to your next classmate. You could be talking to the person that's going to open the door to that next opportunity of success for you. All right. And so this is just to wrap up a little bit about who I am at the end of it all. From that opportunity, that created my brand, right? That is who I ended up becoming. So I have been featured in over 50 articles. If you Google my name and put singing or opera next to it, you're gonna have a crap ton of Google searches. So I've been in articles, I've been in magazines. The biggest newspaper in my country wrote a 3-page article on my success when I graduated with my PhD. And so now you have this girl who wanted to be a criminologist who is now known to be an opera singer. But that was where I had to think about what next. I'm graduated. What do I want to say in this world? What is my purpose? I go back to the drawing board. It's so important to realize no matter how far you reach, there's always going to be that chance where you have to look back, right? Ron mentioned it about the past, the present, the future. Looking at my vision, I knew the kind of lifestyle I wanted. I knew what I kind of wanted to do. And I kind of reached a certain level of success, but I didn't necessarily know how to connect those dots. I was that aunt now that was kind of like, what do you do? So I turned around and I revamped and revisit and really refocus what I wanted. And I realized along the way that everything that I was doing had a lot to do with students, minority students especially. You know, I'm that girl from the Caribbean who dreamt. And also working with helping students realize what they wanted to do, because so many people did that for me, right? I had all of these professors, the vice presidents, all of these people reaching out to me saying what I could do. And so I felt so empowered because they exhibited great leadership. And like we learned before, when you exhibit great leadership, people want to follow you. People want to be inspired. You inspired them and they inspired me. So then, that led me to creating eventually what would be a Doctor of Arts in music, but a specialty in educational psychology, which eventually led me to Manchester University, my dream job, because I get to work with you. I get to work with students. I get to help students realize their dreams, especially students like me. So music for me was always the vehicle, but finding my purpose was my vision that kept me going and kept me making that step. And what I like to say is that we're always learning, right? I'm taking notes from Madeline and Ron and going to all of these things because leadership is going to be a lifelong process. And so if you could take a little bit from what I shared with you today about the importance of looking back, realizing that your vision is created not only with one thing in mind, but also revamping, reviewing, going back to the drawing board, but also looking at who are the key players in your life and how you could use the resources that you have, then I feel like this would have been successful. And so you heard my perspective. Now I want to invite Kenny to share his perspective because his perspective is going to be completely different from mine. And I hope you can take away something from what he shared. And I hope that he's better at working this than I was. Thank you, guys.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kenny Doss. I'm the Student Diversity and Inclusion Coordinator. First, I would like to say thank you for inviting me here. It's a pleasure to be back on campus, and it's a pleasure to be in this space with you all. In order for me to tell you about what I'm doing now, I think it's best for me to tell you all of the obstacles that I had to overcome to get to where I'm at now. So what will be speaking on today is resilience. I'm from Chicago. How many of you all ever been to Chicago or heard of Chicago? Great food, skyscrapers, Navy Pier, fun things to do. Well, I want you all to take in your mind a 5 to 10 minute trip up the road to where I'm from, the south side of Chicago, the Inglewood community, where that scene isn't the same from the downtown Chicago area of what we all know to be one of the greatest cities in the country. What I see is, and what I seen every day was vacant lots with grass to your chest, police cars flying left and right, the sounds of police sirens, ambulance sirens to the point to where it's normal. Even to hear gunshots so often that you could almost pinpoint exactly where they're coming from. So for a second, I want you all to just close your eyes. And I want you all to, while you're closing your eyes, envision 2 kids. I want you all to put that first child in that setting that we talked about, the Chicago that we all know, the Chicago that we all love, with libraries, great school systems, parks, fireworks shows. Now I want you to take that second child and put them in the Chicago that I know, to where you come into school, metal detectors, when you're trying to take a test, the sounds of dogs walking through the hallways, not being able to go on field trips because of the school system being underfunded, sharing books with your classmates that your older siblings shared with their classmates and your parents shared with their classmates. Now you can open them. And I want you all to look at me. And I want to ask you all rhetorically, which child am I? So growing up in Chicago, the South Side, the Inglewood community to be exact, I grew up off 2 things. I grew up off hate and hopelessness. The first thing that I will talk about is hate, because I know it probably sounds weird, right? But it's hate to the point to where you can't be a kid. Watching your loved ones die, get beat by police officers, and you can't show emotions, because if you show emotions, it's a sign of weakness. Hate because you can't be an average kid and go to certain parks and play or laugh, because that's a sign of weakness. And the second one, I say hopelessness, because in my community, we didn't see any doctors, lawyers, or college graduates. The only people that we looked up to was professional athletes, rappers, and the guys that was on the block in the community selling drugs to make money. Basketball was my outlet. It was my key to a better life. And I took it and ran. Although I didn't become a professional athlete, it has opened up a lot of doors for me. I was able to go places that I never would have went, with the education and being a product of the underfunded community that I was in. I went through a lot of ups and downs in my basketball journeys, going from college to college. I was able to end my college career here, with this being the fourth school that I attended, because I was taken advantage of by being an athlete my whole life. And just all of the troubles that I went through in college. I remember being in California before I came here, homeless, nowhere to go, but not wanting to leave because I didn't want to go back to that hopelessness place and be a statistic like everyone else. Because if I went back, I would fall into the same dynamics of what was going on in my community. So that summer, I started doing work in my community with my nonprofit organization, Bridging the Gap Globally. And I took that step because I didn't want the same youth that was coming behind me to make the same mistakes that I made and get those same doors slammed in their face because of what we came from. I did a lot of work in the community. We had events, rallies, and I gained the trust of the youth in the community, and all of the schools in the Inglewood community was closing down. And I took it upon myself to see who was in charge of everything that was going on in my community. And I seen it was the alderman. So once again, I took it upon myself to run for political office in my community. I was one of the youngest to ever make a political ballot in Chicago. Although I lost, it was a great experience. And it also was a hard experience as well, because while I was running for political office, I was still here at MU fighting to get a degree. And I remember coming back and forth. My days was very rough, and it seemed like 24 hours wasn't enough time. I would go to class, after my classes, jump on the road to Chicago, 2.5 hours, go campaign, meetings, debates, jump back on the road, come back here, write papers, do homework, and then repeat. But I remember when I first came here, I was looked at as that big, black, scary man with dreads who had a lack of vocabulary, who couldn't fully pronounce words. And that taught me a lot. It taught me a lot because sometimes we don't understand what it took for me to get here isn't what it took for my classmates sitting next to me to get here. And it also showed me that sometimes in life, we don't have the same worries, because I was worrying about the violence that I fell victim to and my people were still going through in my community. Watching my little brothers get shot, watching the doors get kicked in, and my baby brother, who was only 7, being still in their environment. So I know that I had to be the one to make a difference. So here it is now. I ran for political office. Everything's look like it's going good. I'm getting attention from my nonprofit. And then while I'm running for political office as well, my grandfather died and my uncle was killed the same day. So now how do I show those emotions? Because I'm still fighting for a degree. I still have a campaign to run, and I still have a lot of youth in my community that's dependent on me. So I had to dig deep inside of me and find that resilience that I had, that I didn't know I had, to keep pushing through, to keep prevailing, to jump those hurdles that was thrown in my way. Coming here to MU, it showed me a lot of things about myself and how to switch up in different environments, because like I said, I was deemed as unprofessional because I didn't have a suit to go to business affairs. To business fairs. I didn't know how to pronounce words. And what a lot of people don't understand is I didn't have a suit because in my community, the only time you see someone with a suit was when they were going to court or if they were the one in the casket. So after election, I was able to use my resources that I made to get a job, and I started doing work in Chicago public schools. I brought my organization there. Due to COVID, we were unable to keep going and keep pushing and being that change in those students' lives to see someone still make an honest living and not be a rapper or a professional athlete, but to see someone who went to college and understand what it's like to be them and understand what it's like to be in their shoes. So from the time of, I will say, last June to now, I've been to a total of 9 funerals. And those funerals are not distant cousins or friends of friends. They were close friends, close cousins, uncles. And I had a hard time trying to deal with it. I even remember sitting next to my friend at his son's funeral. And my friend was only 25 years old, and his son was a victim of gun violence, and he was only 11 months. And I can't describe that feeling. I didn't know what to say to my friend. I didn't have the words, but I knew something had to change. I was blessed with this opportunity to come here at MU to be the Student Diversity and Inclusion Coordinator. And I ran with it because I was getting burnt out in Chicago. And I understand sometimes you gotta leave in order to make a change. So I just want you all to understand that, things doesn't get better. Right now, I'm still fighting, and I chose to step up in my family and be the first one to get mental help because my family has been going through a lot, and it's something that's not talked about in the Black community because we bury our feelings deep down inside of us, and as of lately, it's been taking a toll on me. So I just want to let you all know that standing here today, you are looking at someone who did come from an underfunded community, an underfunded school. But I'm here today and I made it through every obstacle. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kenny. So you guys heard 2, I would say, kind of extreme stories, right? But in those stories, there is leadership. We spoke about leadership, and leaders are born or revealed rather out of chaos, right? And that's something that's so true. How do you take the circumstances that are in your life? It could be somebody simple as, leaving your country and coming to America, or it could be being the 3rd child, being the only child. It could mean being somebody who has to escape gun violence. But whatever that is going on in your life, how do you unveil all of that to create leadership opportunities for yourself? It's a little bit more about Kenny, some things. And so we want you to ask yourselves these questions. What are some of my dreams? Really think about that and be specific. Write it down now. Think about it, right? What are some things? You kind of talked about your purpose. You kind of figured out, okay, later on you're going to do that handout, hopefully that Madeline helped us with today. And you find out, okay, this is kind of my purpose. This is what I want to do. But then what are some of my dreams? How can I actualize that? What is something that I see myself doing in a year from now? 2 years from now, 3 years from now? I'm a big, big believer in vision boards. So I already knew to myself, okay, whatever I focus on, what I see, that's what I'm going to get. So think about that. What are some of my dreams? Next question. Who are some of the key players in helping me achieve this dream or those dreams? For me, it was my professors reaching out to me, talking about this competition, that competition. How do you, elevate yourself to stand out, right? For you, it might be our career center, reaching out, building that resume, what looks good. It could also be let me look at the area, look at Wabash County, some of the organizations. Who can I reach out to that will give me that internship, that will be able to help me look really impressive for when I do have an interview for my dream job? Who are some of the key players that will help me achieve this dream? Just think about it, maybe write down some stuff. Third question, what are some steps that I can do today to achieve this dream or move in the direction of achieving this dream? It could be going online and researching, you know, I saw this person had this job. I really like it. Let me read their bio. What were some of the steps they took? Maybe I could send an email. Hey, I see that you're doing this. I'm a student at MU. I would really love to shadow you this coming summer. Can you help me this? Can I get an internship? What are some of those steps that you can do today? It seriously is about taking that first step, having the courage to be creative in those outlooks, right? So again, what are some of the steps I can do today? Because you can do a lot today. We live in an era of technology. We live in an era of COVID too, but so much is happening through technology. Take advantage of that. Madeline spoke about your era. What are some of the key things in our era that we could take advantage of? In the past, parents or grandparents would have to go mail their application. An application is just a click away for us. Think about those advantages that we have now. So what are some steps we can do today? And what are some immediate goals to work towards? So, all right, you might not have your purpose ready. You might not have your vision ready, but you kind of have an idea of what kind of career you might want to have. Well, to achieve that career, what do? Is getting a good GPA going to help? If you want to go to grad school, yeah, it probably will. Is getting an internship opportunity probably going to help? Yeah. How many times you see an application, work experience? Yeah, it's probably going to help. Is shadowing somebody to see what their lives look like so you could say, yes, I want that career, or no, I don't really want to do that after seeing it? Yeah, that's probably going to help. So what are some immediate goals that you can think of to help achieve that? Think about it. And lastly, going back to what Ron said, what Madeline said, what or who are you doing this all for? Because times are going to get hard. It might be going to a funeral. It might be a sick parent. It might be a bad grade. It might be mental health issues. It might be so much. Life is chaotic. It really is. But what is going to keep you? What is going to keep you moving forward towards that goal, that vision, that purpose? You have to think about that. Who? It might be parents. It might be, I'm an immigrant. I cannot stop now because my parents worked too hard for me to give up. It might be, I know what I saw growing up and I don't want that. So I'm going to work towards something else. Or it might be, you know what? I have a vision of excellence and I deserve to give myself the opportunity to achieve, work hard and achieve my dreams. Whatever it is and whoever it's for, be very specific, because those people, those thoughts are what is going to get you through those chaotic times. Because trust me, so much is going to change in your life. What will not change is challenges and chaos. So the faster that you can understand why it is you do what you do, what is your purpose, what is your vision, what gives you breath, the easier it will be for you to acclimate to this thing called life, right? And so you learned so much. Hopefully, you could take little tidbits from everything everybody shared with you today. Because ultimately, you have your own story. You are your own leader. And it's up to you, with the help of these key players, with the help of faculty, with the help of family, with the help of parents, to achieve what it is you really do want to achieve and actualize the vision, the purpose that you have for your life. So with that, Kenny and I thank you for keeping up with us with the technological issues. So we will break for this half of the day. And we thank you so much for your time. And hopefully you got a lot out of all 3 presentations. Thank you.
Question.
Yes, sorry. Unapologetically authentic. What does that entail? That entails a lot. That entails looking back at your dimension. Being unapologetic means that you are occupying the space that you are occupying for a reason. You are Fatu for a reason. I am Megan for a reason. And I'm unapologetic for who I am and all the different parts of the dimensions that we discovered today. It means walking in your purpose. It means not allowing people to shrink who you are and all that you are capable of achieving. Being unapologetic is truly living your best self. Hope that helps. Second. Kenny. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question. So Fatu asked, for those who didn't hear, being from the Caribbean or being from where Kenny is, has anybody ever told us that we couldn't do music or we couldn't do basketball or whatever our dream was? Absolutely. I preface it by saying in the Caribbean, these are the only careers that you have to be a success: a doctor, a lawyer, a wife, an engineer. Of course, a lot of my friends were like, a singer. You went all the way to America to be a singer. Seriously. But ultimately, you just, again, have to be unapologetic in who you are. If that's what I want to do, that's what I want to do. And it just comes down to that belief in yourself, like Ron spoke about, having that courage to embody all that you are and who you are. That's ultimately what it comes down to. Kenny, I don't know if you wanted to talk about that quickly.
Yes, I was told all the time to just get a job, not to go to college. I was just gonna be in debt. I was gonna come back home and work the same job that I could have got straight out of high school.
Thank you for that question. Anybody else? All right, thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much, Megan and Kenny.